to deal with. Now we can go into a range of technical recommendations vis-a-vis, say, the National Police Service, and I'll ask my colleague Domo to come and talk in detail about those. But the bigger picture is this. Kenya has never had a sectarian problem. We've had Ukabila tribalism. We're good tribalists. But we've never been at each other's throats as Christian versus Muslim. I was there when the American embassy was blown up in 1998, which was the first time Al-Qaeda did a really big operation. It was when they bombed the embassies in Nairobi and Dar es Salaam. And I remember the way Kenyans came together at that time. There was never the mention of Muslim this, Muslim that, never even came up. In fact, even our political leaders, including President Moi, Kibaki, Raila, Wamalwa, Charity Ngilu, all visited the site of this collapsed building next to the US Embassy after that attack. So it became a unique moment of nation building. What appears to have happened this time, however, is the way that the war against terror is being prosecuted, the so-called war against terror, which started with our military adventure into Somalia, which, in my own opinion, was ill-advised. Kenya had always kept out of putting troops directly into Somalia, considering the internal contradictions that was here. We have a situation where we have to admit we are profiling people by religion. Muslims, I have seen it myself in public places. The person with a buibui or with a skull cap step out of line is pushed back. We had Operation Usalama, where we had a stadium where we dumped a lot of people from the Somali community, Muslims, and creating for the first time in this society this divide between Christians and Muslims, lending the so-called war against terror a flavor which it has not had in this country. In Kenya, for millennia, if you go to Lamu and those places, long before some of the countries that are helping us in the war against terror came into existence, we had Muslims and other communities living together in harmony. We've had a very tolerant situation. So I think that one has to push back extremely strongly against this very divisive approach towards the war against terror. The war against terror should not be seen as a war against Muslims, because they're Kenyans as well, and their rights under the Constitution are guaranteed. So that's, I think, an issue that has to be given precedence. And we keep in mind that we have a common enemy. This Al-Shabaab group in Somalia has been killing Somalis. Then it has come to kill Kenyans, Muslims, non-Muslims. It doesn't discriminate. It is in killing, but it is looking to divide us. And I think that Kenyans are bigger than that. We are stronger than that, and we should not allow ourselves to be divided along religious lines by a group that is acting the way that Al-Shabaab is acting. And the state is making a mistake. I don't think that the one thing that is exclusively a military issue. This militarization of the issue is a mistake, and it is something that, there's a sense in which I am my brother's keeper, I am my sister's keeper, regardless of which religion, creed, tribe. And this militarization of this problem is something that we seem to be importing from other parts of the world. It's not in the Kenyan tradition. It will work, it will divide us, and it will bring us tremendous problems. I'll hand over to my colleagues to solve that question.
Thank you, John. I'll be very specific because I think I was asked to give specific issues on security reforms and what it will be done. First, to answer this question, I think it's important that we answer Wajoi's question in a more candid way, and not Wajoi, this country. I think Kenyans are demanding a very basic thing. They are demanding for a responsive, sensitive, and accountable leadership. Period. That's all what Kenyans are asking for. Leadership that is sensitive, that is accountable, and that is responsive. That's all what Kenyans are asking for. And they are not going to stop demanding for that because they are not doing that seeking for a favor. It is their constitutional right. The Constitution of Kenya talks about sovereign will of the people. Kenyans are exercising their sovereignty. My second point is this. If a leadership cannot measure up to that, Mr. Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has only 3 options on the table. Option number 1, if your government suffers a significant level of legitimacy deficit, you disband or dissolve your government and reconstitute your government afresh. That is what a responsible leadership does. Option 2 is you call for a fresh elections. And the good thing about our constitution is this. You can only call for elections for the presidency. The rest of the institutions didn't. Kenya separated elections institutions. It is no longer like the past, where if you call for an election, you're going to call for MPs, everybody and everybody. No, it's going to be specifically the elections for the president. That's the second option. You call for elections for presidency. Right? Option 3, I've talked about. Option 1 is dissolve your government because it's fresh. Option 2 is call for fresh presidential election. And number 3 is that you have to buy the moment and say, look, as a president, I do not think that I have the power and competence to lead this country. I hereby voluntarily resign. And you set up mechanism to kickstart itself. Those are clear options. There are no two way about it. And that's exactly what anywhere you do, a legitimate government does. And therefore you cannot continue talking about area things. Those are clear options we are asking for. And it's not us, it's Kenyans. That's what Kenyans are asking for. I think, John, I was asked to give specifically on questions about security issues. But I want to be very clear. The person responsible for the security of this country is the President of the Republic of Kenya. The Constitution of Kenya, under Article 240, established the National Security Council. Who chairs the Security Council? Is the President. The core mandate of this council is to facilitate formulation of the national security policy and provide the prerequisite oversight on the security organs. Has the President done that? Who sits in that council? It is him as the chair, the Vice President, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister for Interior, everybody. They all sit there. Where is the national security policy? Simple question. To coordinate, to facilitate, coordinate the national security agenda, our interests, and help to coordinate all the security organs. And then you can put accountability where it belongs. That's point number 1, the Security Council. You have the Council on Administration of Justice. It is chaired by who? Chief Justice. That agency brings together the security sector, the justice, and altogether, why have they not been able to give us a concrete, well thought out law enforcement and crime prevention policy so that we now have one and only one, the Inspector General of Police for failure to implement that? Where is the accountability? The third critical institution, and I want to say this when they are here, is the institution of the National Parliament. The Constitution of Kenya gives so much power to the institution of the National Parliament that today Kenyans are struggling looking for answers, and I find it very strange. Also, members of Parliament are also looking for answers. Yet they're the ones who have been delegated the constitutional authority by Kenyans to provide what? Leadership and direction. Why have you not been able to act on the state officers, that is the Inspector General of Police, the Director of the Criminal Intelligence Service, the Director General of the National Intelligence Service, the Committee on the Military? You have all those powers. Why are you not exercising your constitutional power that you have as members of the National House? Those are clear-cut questions that you need to deal with. So what are we recommending as a saying? We are going to be very particular. Number one, we want the national security as a matter of priority, generate and provide this country with a cogent, coherent, and clear national security policy. That's point number one. I know they have been meeting to discuss about it. I think so. They have been having a meeting about it. Was supposed to be there like yesterday. And I think the Parliament needs to look at that policy and make sure that whether it can measure up to the standard that Kenyans want. That's point number one. Point number two is that we want the same council provide the guidance to the Ministry of Interior and the National Police Service to come up with a law enforcement and crime prevention strategy. Clear on institutions, responsibilities, and who. And we want the council to set up a clear-cut accountability and oversight mechanism on implementation of the policy and holding to account the officers responsible. For purpose of clarity and avoidance of political grandstanding, it will be advisable for a president to appoint a special security advisor, and mark my words, must be a well-understood, expertise person on matters of security to be stationed at that office called the State House. And if allowed, I can make this one. And our recommendation: it is not that ordinary police officer, you call them regular police officers, this country needs. This country needs to completely overhaul the structure and rebuild the Directorate of Criminal Investigation. That is the hub of law enforcement. It is the
and led. So we are here to remind the principal duty bearer to bear that duty. We are here to remind the president that he owes to this country to take up the baton and lead. Of course, if he fails to heed this counsel, then the people of Kenya have various options that they can exercise. And those options have already been outlined. And it is not just the president, but also other institutions of governance need to step up to the plate. But the point we called this press conference for, as we have already stated, is that Kenyans continue to die, their institutions continue to decay under the leadership of Jubilee, and Jubilee needs to stand up and measure up to what they themselves promised in their manifesto and what the Constitution requires them to do in order for us to save our country from this existential tragedy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful for the patience that you've shown this morning and on Sunday morning. I think this is the end of the press conference. The papers will be distributed. The speech or the paper will be distributed at the table there. And yes, I also recognize the presence of I say all your names, Asanteni for coming this morning. There is is there coffee or tea or something like that? Okay, there is coffee and tea on the left back there. This press conference is now over. Thank you very, very much.